Hey, what's up, Boneyard family? Do you remember game night? Remember how much fun that was? You stay up late with your friends, your family, play some late night poker, some things like that. Maybe you can't do that anymore. Maybe because you guys are somewhat separated. Maybe your college friends or your military buddies or perhaps the ladies from girls' night have moved out of state. How about reconnecting with our friends from Poker Chill? You download the Poker Chill app. It's very easy to do. It's got built-in video chat, so it's not just some virtual game. You're able to kind of communicate and see your friends. So when you take the pot, you can see the shock on their face. You can host private poker games, no Zoom or computer necessary. You can video chat right on your phone or tablet. A perfect way to hang out remotely with your friends or family. It's as fun and real as live poker, but it's from your phone, so you can do it from the convenience of your own home. Easy, just 3 taps to set this whole thing up. Perfect for both beginners and advanced players. Download now for iPhone and iPad. Get started by downloading the Poker Chill app, and here's the deal. We're going to help you get 5 hours free, completely free, by using promo code Boneyard when you download the Poker Chill app. Check it out today.
Bulldog fans, excited to introduce you to our new friends at Vincero. Very excited about this, too. I mean, this is a company that does a great job pumping out the Vincero Collective. Very, very excited about this. You should be, too. If you don't know who Vincero is just yet, they're a premium lifestyle brand out of San Diego, right here in the United States of America, carrying watches, sunglasses, and much, much more. Perfect for men and women of any style, any age. Creating exceptionally crafted and ethically made products. That's important in today's time, too. Modern pieces that elevate your look and stand the test of time. And how many times do you go out and you buy something and it's like, I really like these, and the next thing you know, you buy these glasses, and the next thing you know, they're getting kind of wobbly and everything else, and you feel like you've got some old sunglasses and they're just not lasting. That's not the case with Vincero. They're adamant about the process. Design everything in-house. They source their own materials. They produce in small batches and ship right to your home. They do with the planet in mind. Vincero has been carbon neutral since 2019. Investing in renewable energy and forestry. Modern ethical branding with the goal of providing premium lifestyle accessories for the stylish me and you. How about that? Stainless steel, durable silicone, and Italian marble straps. Surgical grade stainless steel casing with Italian marble inlay. It's incredible. Go check them out yourself today. Vincero is offering a special 15% off for Boneyard listeners and free shipping to all of our listeners by using the promo code Boneyard. That's VinceroCollective.com. That's Vincero Collective.com. It's Vincero. That's how you pronounce it, Vincero. But it's spelled Vincero Collective.com/Boneyard. Very, very easy to find. And again, you get that 15% off and free shipping just by being a Boneyard listener. Be sure and check them out today.
Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the Maroon Friday edition of the Yard. It is the wee hours of the morning on Friday. It is a busy day for your good friend and host because I'm going to try to get a few hours sleep. Then I'll be signing books at the FCA fundraiser there at the Mill in Starkville. So if you're in town, come by, say hello, get some books. All of the books will be available for purchase there too. So come by and check those out. And we can get you going. If you can't make it to town, you're looking for books, we have been able to kind of secure some additional inventory to kind of bridge us through until the second printing arrives. Many of you have asked and said, Steve, I'll just wait for the second printing. But you don't have to wait. We have gotten a few other cases. So I guess we probably got, maybe 200 books or so available right now. I don't know if that gets us to June. But between what we have in stores and what we have in the now secured in the warehouse, we think we can get you guys going. And of course, we got some vendors out there we can always borrow some books from and replenish their inventory when the second printing comes in. But books doing really, really well. I want to thank you guys so much for your support of that. I bump into a lot of people and they say, Steve, I've read the book. It's a great book. And I ran into Casey Hunt's dad before the ball game on Thursday. And he stopped me and thanked me, and man, he's such a great guy. I'm really happy for that family. And he goes, man, Steve, what a gift this book is to our baseball family, and not just the baseball parents and players, but all those that are invested in Mississippi State baseball. And It means a lot, man. It really does to hear from all of you, but also too from our baseball parents. Because I believe this is a book that is a keepsake that you guys are going to want to keep forever. And I'll walk through Duty Noble sometimes, and people are like, "Hey, Steve, I need to get the book. Where can I get it?" It is available at a lot of places right now. Of course, you can order it at dogpilethebook.com. But if you're in Starkville, you can get it at Liza Ty. You can get it at Campus Bookmart. You can get it at the Lodge. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it downtown at Bookmart and Cafe. You can get it there in the Jackson area at Lemuria Books. You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it at both College Corner locations. If you're in Vicksburg, you can get it at Lorelei. If you're in the Delta, you can get it at Turnrow Books. And so it's out there and available. Of course, if you're in Columbus, you can go by Friendly City Books. What a great bookstore that is as well. And so I'm so incredibly appreciative of everybody that carries the books. And it's difficult to keep up sometimes. And, between the Bulldog baseball schedule and in my own signing schedule, sometimes, I feel a little stretched thin. I do. I'm still very loyal to these shows and always determined, even if I have to bring my gear on the road, to get you guys shows done on schedule, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But yeah, it's been great, and I will share with you guys again because the inventory levels on Stark Villains and Alpha Dogs are deplenishing, and again, they will not be in print the rest of this year. So whatever's out there in stores is all that's going to be available. To guarantee that you get a signed or personalized copy, you can order those from dogpilethebook.com. And it's less than 100 Stark Villains and now less than 200 Alpha Dogs. As I mentioned last time, we're kind of getting to the end of this thing, and I want to keep you guys abreast of that because I have some people that say, "Hey, Steve, I got Flim Flam, I got Dogpile, I'll eventually get the other ones." And so to guarantee you get them, you need to make a move sooner rather than later. And then just about every book signing that I go to, people ask about Blooms of Oleander. "Hey, Steve, I don't have that one yet." And sometimes I don't have them with me. To be honest with you, sometimes I forget. I get busy. I'm so eager to get out the door. And so go to Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com, BooksAMillion.com, or check with your local bookstore. Many of the bookstores I mentioned earlier have Blooms of Oleander. And if they don't, of course, you can order it online. Very excited about that. And recently, we've had a big run on those books. And I don't know what's happened. But all of a sudden, I get the sales reports, and we had a really good month last month, and off to a really good start this month. And that's a book now. It's been out now since June, and was on the bestseller list for a long time. And let me share with you this too. There's so many people out there that have come up and said, "Hey, Steve, not a big reader, but I love your books," and that means a lot to me too. And I encourage you to maybe once you've read all my books, pick up some other stuff. We've got some other folks out there, From Hero to Zero is that great book the Twig Branch had written. I wrote a story about that recently, and, be sure and check that out, and if you're looking for kids' books, I love the book that Miss Bell wrote about Fiorella, I Love You, Flaws and All. It is a great children's book. You can Google that. You can find it at many of the same great bookstores around the wonderful state of Mississippi. But I encourage you to, with Mother's Day coming up, Father's Day coming up, and kids, reading books is always an important part. I remember when I was a kid, we had this great big Bible story book, and it was basically it was a one pager, if you know what I'm saying. Like there'd be this, it's a really big book. And my mom would read one of those Bible stories to me and my brother every night. And I learned to read by listening to her and following those words. And I believe that made a big difference, in the early years of my schooling, because I was able to, I hit the ground running. I already knew how to read before I started school. And to be honest with you, in the beginning, school was kind of boring for me. And there was actually some talk when I was in the first grade that they might advance me a year. And I don't say that out of pride or haughtiness or anything like that, but I give my mom a lot of credit for reading to me as a kid. And my mom would bring me, and my grandmother especially, would take me right across the way there in Columbia, Mississippi. I lived with my grandparents when I was really young. And we'd go to the Marion County Public Library. And when I was just a kid, it was just basically in an old house. And they built that wonderful facility there on the corner of Park and Broad Street there. and we'd go over for story time. And I was always so excited to go in there because it always smelled so neat, and the bookstores were so great. And then it's pretty amazing to me now that I got 5 books on the shelf in my hometown library, and it means an awful lot to me. But it's one of those things where you kind of there's a cycle out there. You know, it's like I used to go and as a consumer at the Marion Public Library, and then now I'm a contributor to that same library. It means an awful lot to me, and you guys have been so wonderful to support me. And I wanted to get that out there early in the show because I get messages every single day because not everybody that follows me listens to the show. I know that seems kind of silly, but it's the truth. A lot of people just aren't podcast people, and so they know me from Gene's page or through Facebook or being on radio shows and things like that. So if you know people that are looking for the books, you can find them. And again, I encourage you to. With the holidays coming up, I am confident before that second printing arrives in June that we will run out of books, even if we bridge some things together, because with some holidays coming up, people are going to be spending some money, and buy it for yourself. That's the thing too. There's so much of that too that we get so busy taking care of other people, we don't always do a lot for ourselves, and that's a lesson that I learned, really more in recent years. Like I will spend some money on myself. When I got 2 girls in college, and they have no qualms about spending money. But I'll tell you this, they're really self-sufficient in many respects. And I've done a really nice job, I think, of putting together a really nice collection of Mississippi State memorabilia. And as I sit here and talk to you guys, I'm admiring some new baseball cards that I have added to my collection. I've got thousands of those cards, but recently added a Boo Ferris rookie card and a Willie Mitchell card. And then I got a signed picture of Coach Paul Gregory. I got a Hugh Kritz card, and those things may not mean much to maybe avid collectors, but as a Mississippi State baseball guy, they mean an awful lot to me. I got a picture earlier this week of Bunny Hearn pitching at Yankee Stadium. Couldn't find a baseball card for him, but I found that picture and thought, this is really neat. I'd like to have this. And so you go buy it. And I'm very grateful for you guys really kind of giving me the financial wherewithal to do that sort of stuff. But they mean an awful lot to me. And, I think at some point about my own mortality, what will I do with all this stuff? And I'm sure my kids will gladly take it. But, if they don't, maybe we'll gift it all to the university. At some point, my hope is that John Cohen will build a museum. I have told him of that as well. I said, we need to have a baseball museum at Mississippi State. We need to embrace that. And we need to be able to put our stuff out there. And, we've got so much rich tradition in college baseball. And, let's just kind of own it. I know we have dedicated a lot of time, effort, and resources for Duty Noble Field. But it would be awfully nice to be able to have, a museum where we can kind of showcase our baseball tradition. And that dates back to 1885. And I guess in some ways I'm kind of partial to many of those older teams because I don't know that we talk enough about them. And I had somebody reach out to me and say, hey, Steve, I really missed those Diamond Dog Tales articles you used to write and then the Bulldog Heroes you talked about on the show. And so we're going to bring that feature back here on the show very, very soon. I didn't really have time to kind of prepare today, but I could talk about Mississippi State baseball whenever. And I love uncovering little things. Mississippi State is my life in many respects. And I always feel like if something is important to me or if there's something that I find that is really neat, is somebody who kind of sees it all and does it all and has heard it all, I figure you guys are interested as well. And, I'll give you a quick one real quick, like Bunny Hearn. You say, well, Steve, who's Bunny Hearn? Well, Bunny Hearn was a guy that transferred to Mississippi State from Elon. And then he comes to Mississippi State, and he was a dominant pitcher for us, really, really hard-throwing left-hander. Ends up playing 6 years in the major leagues, nearly 400 major league innings. Didn't have a stellar record, but he had big stuff and hung around for a long time and eventually went to work as a scout and a minor league manager, even did some semi-pro stuff. Found his way to North Carolina and became the head baseball coach at North Carolina. If I remember correctly, he was a Boone, North Carolina native. And so he ends up there at UNC and then leaves again to go coach pro baseball, goes back and then stays, almost the balance of his career and became for a while the winningest coach in the history of North Carolina baseball. And he's a Bulldog. And I didn't know that, And so when I uncovered that kind of stuff, I said, man, this is really neat. And it's not just, material for the show, but it's stuff that I like to know myself. I really am fascinated by the fact that we have had so many great baseball figures in our history. And I commend our administration for doing the Ron Polk Ring of Honor. And it's not just limited to players that played in the Polk era. I'm really happy to hear, too, that Frank Montgomery is a guy that is going to be honored here sooner rather than later. I think a lot of Frank. Had a chance to sit at Obie's with him one day and just talk baseball for a while. And he shared something with me I think is very profound. He goes, Steve, the worst thing that ever happened to pitching? I said, what's that, Frank? He said the radar gun. And he said, we got a lot of people that are hard throwers, but they don't know how to pitch. And that's true. You go look at the career that Greg Maddux had. What did Greg top out at? 91, 92 on a good day when he had a big breakfast, But he knew how to change speeds. He worked both sides of the plate, and the guy could really pitch. And one of the greatest pitchers in the history of the game, certainly in my lifetime. And so I respect that. But, Frank Montgomery's a guy that held the school record for a long time for wins in a season. That was surpassed by Ross Mitchell back in 2013. And so you look at that and say, hey, this was a historic season by Ross. But what about the guy who held it, for a better part of 50, 60 years? So it's good to be able to honor those people, and I think it's fabulous. I absolutely think it is spectacular, the job that we do honoring our former Diamond Dogs, and probably need to do more of that. And it is a passion of mine. So enjoy sharing that information with you, and we'll do a little bit more of that on the show. We've got the summertime coming up too, so let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I love Bulldog Burger Company, and I will be in there at this point this weekend sometime. I don't know, maybe Saturday. We'll see. We'll see how things go. And I think it's important for you guys to know that Bulldog Burger Company is a place that is committed to making sure you have the best dining experience possible. Great food at a great price with great service in great locations. And 3 of them to now serve you. University Drive here in Star Vegas, that's a flagship. And then Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, and the brand new one, the Lake Harbor Drive location there in central Mississippi. Go by and check them out. You'll be glad you did. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. If you're looking for a great restaurant quality hamburger, you're not gonna find one better anywhere else. It's as simple as that. I love the place. You will too. Bring the kids. Let them get the chocolate shake to go. That way they're bouncing off the walls later. And maybe treat yourself to that Shipway's Donut Bread Pudding. You'll be glad you did. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. MEAT. By now you are aware that Mississippi State won an intercollegiate college baseball game against the University of Auburn. Really, really big win for State. We've talked a couple times, hey, this is a season-saving type situation, and then we go out and lose a game we shouldn't. We had that awful weekend last weekend against LSU. And a lot of people said, hey, you know what? Hey, we need to find a way to win this series and possibly sweep. We have put ourselves in a position to do that, not just because of how well we played, but because the game was still somewhat in question. Auburn had to burn through some pretty quality arms here. And you get their best starter, their best long reliever, and their best closer on Thursday, and stayed able to kind of make that thing work out. And Blake Burkhalter, the closer, threw 42 pitches, likely burned for the weekend. Carson Skipper threw 47 or so. Likely that he's done too. Now Auburn has some arms. Butch Thompson's always going to have some. But we took Auburn's best shot on Thursday, and we win the ball game. Let's take a look now and recap that. Top of 1, Brandon Smith. I thought Brandon, especially on short rest, was outstanding. And I shared with some people after the ball game, Brandon Smith, his insertion into the weekend rotation may be the difference in us making a regional and not. Because Brandon Smith is going to give you 3 competitive starters on the weekend. And that's not to say that some other guys don't want it really bad or that they're not willing to get out there and compete. But Brandon is a guy that executes pitches. Brandon's not a guy that walks people. Brandon's a guy that lets the defense work. And that's what he did tonight. And I am really, really excited about the prospects of Brandon Smith on the weekend. Top of 1, Brandon gets 1, 2, 3 here. We get Rambush to ground out. Howell grounds out to short. And then DeShera flies out to right center. And when Brandon is on his game, it's ground out. And ground out, and ground out, and ground out. And he was on his game tonight. There were a couple times he elevated some pitches, and he paid for it one time. But by and large, Brandon pitched his game. And when Brandon pitches his game, Mississippi State has a really good chance to win the game. Bottom of one, Brandon gets some help from the offense, and really State gets some help, from Hayden Mullins there. Talked about him when we were previewing the series about he is the guy that'll walk you. Entered the ball game with a 2-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, and then really walked a lot of hitters here. Just didn't have it. That happens sometimes too, even to the best of us. You get out there and you may be prepared and have a good scouting report, but for some reason you just can't execute pitches. And he really struggled to find the zone early. In that first inning, he walks R.J. Yeager on 5 pitches and then walks Cam James on 4. And so we start 8 of 9 pitches out of the strike zone, and a lot of those pitches were not close. I thought the strike zone was rather interesting tonight because it kind of evolved over time. I thought it was very inconsistent for both teams, and it's easy to say that when you lose. I thought Auburn struggled a little bit with a tight zone at times, but in the first, Mullins just wasn't strong. Luke Hancock then follows up with a single right back up the middle to load the bases. And I turned to Mike Nemeth here, and I said, Mike, if we get the big hit here, we are going to win this game. I know it's the first inning. I know there's a lot of baseball left to be played. But, it's when we have failed to get the big hit early, it has been a harbinger of things to come. In this situation, Logan Tanner comes through with a very sharp single through the left side there, and it scores R.J. Yeager. And then you begin to think, too, okay, we've got that run home. We've got to get something more on the board here. We can't afford to just sit here and let this opportunity fall by the wayside, especially when we know runs are going to be at a premium in a first game of an SEC series. Hunter Hines then flies out to right field. He nearly hit that ball out of the ballpark. I mean, he just missed it. He absolutely murdered that pitch and hit it more on a line with a little less loft on it. And so as a result, it ends up being a sac fly RBI. It is now 2-0. Then Slade Alford struck out swinging, not one of his better at bats, but he's going to be fine. And then Kellum Clark grounds out the first unassisted. Thought that actually that went off his foot. He kind of argued that it did. They ruled that it did and didn't even review it. But again, we get a couple runs here. Could have been a bigger inning. And I think we kind of let him off the hook a little bit here. But either way, Brandon Smith goes out there with a 2-0 lead, and Brandon again goes right to work. Now, we give up a single right back up the middle. You think, okay, well, here we go. Nope. Next thing you know, we roll up a double play ball, and it is a 4-6-3 double play. And then we get Pierce to ground out, so we face the minimum there in the second. So 2 innings in, Brandon Smith has faced the minimum. Bottom of 2, Mullins begins to kind of calm down a little bit here, and you think, okay, well, maybe this is how the game's going to set up here. Kumba strikes out swinging, and actually a really good at bat there, even though we didn't get the ball in play there. I thought he did a pretty good job battling. He just kind of beat him on a 2-2 count. Forsythe struck out looking, not a great at bat for him either. He fouls the ball off, takes the ball. We get down 1-2, and we take one away that was clearly a strike. And then Yeager flies out to right field. Actually hit the ball pretty well there. Just got under it a little bit. So it's a 1-2-3 inning for the Bulldogs. Top of third. Brandon right back out here. And again, we get a ground out to open the inning. And it was a lengthy at bat. We get up 0-2, and the next thing you know, it's a full count. But rather than give in, we get the ground out to third. Slade Alford makes a nice play here. LaRue, the catcher, who was hitting less than 200, just kind of runs into one. Gets Auburn on the board, makes it a 2-1 ball game. Bello then grounds out the short, and Rambush grounds out the short to second. So here we go. We've gotten through the order one time and only had really one ball elevated with any pace. Deshara flew out, pretty high fly ball there. And then LaRue does a good job kind of getting under one there. We just caught too much to plate there. But the reality of it is, Brandon, the first time through, allows the 1 run. You think, okay, if we can get through the second time, just allowing the 1 run, we're probably in good shape. Bottom of third, Mullins again kind of loses the zone here. We walk Cam James on 4 pitches, and think about that, Cam James, 2 at-bats, and did not see a strike the first 2 ABs. Hancock then walks, and again, now all of a sudden, you've got him on the ropes. You've got to find a way to make this thing happen. Logan Tanner then grounds into a double play. Didn't get the sharp single this time. And just kind of unlucky here, he pulls the ball right to the third baseman who steps on the bag and fires across. They get the double play, and you think, okay, we need a 2-out base hit. We've really struggled at times to get these. And Hunter Hines, a guy that has struggled here as of late, comes through. He had the big home run on Tuesday, and here he is again in an important situation. He singles back up the middle on an 0-2 count, and Mullins just getting too much at the plate here. Gets ahead 0-2 on back-to-back called strikes, and then Hines rifles one back up the middle, and Luke comes around to score to make it 3-1. And then they have the play there where the ball's in the dirt, and I thought this was one of those plays, too, where it basically boiled down to what the call on the field. It was a bang-bang play. Hines reads in the dirt, takes off, and he's not the most fleet-of-foot guy. I thought he got in there, but when you see the replay, it's basically an instantaneous type deal. His hand goes in, and they tag the helmet. So basically whatever was called on the field was going to stand. It's not irrefutable evidence there to overturn the call. So we're out of the inning. Top of 4, Brandon now with a 2-run lead for the second time in the ballgame. Gets a ground out to third from Howell. DeShara then walks. We kind of pitched around him, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And DeShara has been really hot for them. That's the former Sanford first baseman, had the big home run against us in the regional last year. But by and large, we have pitched him really well the last couple of years. Carlson and singles up the middle when you think, okay, now we're in trouble. We got a couple of guys on. You got the heart of the order coming up. But then Moore grounds out to third, and then Pierce grounds out to second. So again, Brandon on his game, we get into trouble, and what does he do? He gets that sinker working and getting under some barrels and having guys beat the ball in the ground. And I really thought the defense looked really confident with Brandon on the mound. And when you are a defender, you want a guy that works fast, you want a guy that's around the plate, and you want a guy that's going to get soft contact and give you some routine ground balls. Even a couple of these hits, were ground balls that just happened to find a hole. But Brandon really good through 4 innings here. Bottom of 4, again, stayed a little bit of an opportunity here. We don't get the big hit. Alford flies out to right field, and then they walk Kellum Clark on 4 pitches. Cumbus flies out to center and actually barreled that ball up really well. Just a little bit under it there. Hit it really well. And that was just one of those things, too. Brad's a guy that's been scuffling a little bit, too. But even though he had the strikeout earlier, you kind of get the sense he's starting to see the baseball a little bit better. Because early in the year, people would test him with a fastball, and then he would embarrass them. So he's not seeing a lot of those early encounters. Forsythe then singles to right field. And, the hottest hitter in baseball, right? Singles to right field. Clark goes to second. So now we've got runners at first and second with 2 outs. And really a terrible at-bat from R.J. Yeager. He will tell you the same. 3 consecutive breaking balls on the dirt. We chase all 3 of them. I don't know what's in the scouting report, but they clearly found something they thought they could exploit. We absolutely could not lay off those pitches. And in that situation there, Yeager gets a hit. It changes the complexion of the ballgame. Because now all of a sudden, now it's not a 2-run game. It's at least 3, possibly 4, even 5-run game. But nevertheless, we strike out swinging, and one of those swings was just kind of a wave. I mean, it's like, what, we've already committed the swing. It was not a competitive swing. One of the worst at-bats RJ has had. He'll tell you the same. And the difference is we pick him up later in the ballgame. Okay, top of 5. This turned out to be, Brandon's last inning. We give up the double to right field, and it's just kind of one of those things, man. I mean, a guy does a good job of hitting, gets ahead in the count 1-0, and then lifts the ball out there to right field. LaRue then grounds out to second. The runner takes third. So now you begin to think, okay, I've got a runner at third and less than 2 outs in a 2-run ball game. I just need a ground ball to the right side or a routine fly ball, and I can score this game, make it a 1-run game. That's exactly what they get. Bello grounds out to second, pushes that ball to the right side on a full count, and Foster just walks in and scores. And so now you're thinking, okay, we're okay. We're okay. We'll get out of this. Well, we give up back-to-back singles, and, Brandon was beginning to fade a little bit. This is a guy that's thrown, about 189 pitches here in about 10 days. That's a lot. Rambush singles to center field, and Howell singles to the left side. And now you've got a jam. But rather than give in here, we got DeShara to ground out to short. And that's their guy, and that's his moment. He comes in thinking, hey, I'm leading this team in home runs with 11. I'm leading this team in batting average, hitting well over 400. And I've got to come through in these moments. And Brandon wins the battle and really just kind of gutted it out there. I mean, just kind of got bound, just good old-fashioned guts. And we get out of the inning without any further damage. So it's a 3-2 ball game, and you would love to have gotten one more inning from Brandon, but you probably don't want to push him too much. So Carson Skipper comes in the bottom of 5 for Auburn. Not a great day for Hayden Mullins, but considering the walks that he had, we didn't maybe make him pay as handsomely as we should have.
skipper on top of his game too, and he does a great job of hiding that fastball. It's not an overpowering fastball. He's 88, 89, but he hides it really well, and he lets it go late. He's a guy with, long arms, and one of our players kind of compared him to Ethan Small in many respects, that he really gets on you quick. And you could see, you think, man, how are we so late on these fastballs, 88, 89? And that's why. It's just mechanically he does some things that kind of shields the view of the hitter, and has that slow breaking pitch that gets deep in his zone. It's tough to lay off that thing. And the guy's really, really good. I'm kind of glad we got him out of the way now. But he gets a 1-2-3 inning. James grounds out to short, Hancock back to the pitcher, and then Tanner grounds out to short. And a good at bat there for LT as well. We get down in that count 1-2 and just foul off, 4 two-strike pitches over and over and over again, and you think, okay, well, he's on it now, and then he ends up grounding out to short there. But again, quality at bat, even though we don't yield a base runner from it. Our top of 6, we bring in Brooks Auger, and Brooks has kind of been up and down as of late, and very concerned about him right now. Not gonna lie about it. I'm very concerned about him. Understand he's got some tightness. Don't think it's a UCL deal, but you don't know until there's an MRI. You just don't know. So we'll see. I know you guys are eager to hear what's going on. I am too. But as Chris Romano said in postgame, if they don't feel right, we're not gonna take any chances with them. And after the bad luck we've had this year pitching, you just kind of hold your breath in a situation like this. But I've met Brooks' family and met Brooks. He's just a fabulous young man. Glad he's a part of our family, and hope that it's not anything serious. But he gets Carlson to strike out looking, really gets ahead there, and then kind of does what he wants to do. You get ahead in a 1-2 count, and you can kind of make the guy hit your pitch, and an advantage pitch there. Auger takes advantage. Then we walk more on 4 pitches. You start thinking, okay, here we go. This is kind of Auburn's lucky inning, right? So we walk a guy, and then there is a fielding error at third. And this is one of those deals where it's pretty much a routine ball, but discretion's a better part of valor. And he takes a peek at second. This is Alford we're talking about. So Alford fields it clean, takes a look at second. There's no play there. And then he kind of loses the handle, gets it back, throws to first. The throw is not in time. He is charged with an error, which was the right call. It was going to be a close play, and I think that peek at second basically cost you. You make the play there, the complexion of this inning is completely different. Completely different. Because that's a second out. Then you give up a single to third base. Basically, this is a swing and bunt here that just kind of trickles out there. There's no play to be made. It's nobody's fault. It's just one of those things that happens. But now you've got runners there. It's a mess. You've had to walk, you've got an error, and you got to swing a bunt, and you look up and the bases are loaded. Then we walk in a run. It's like, oh my gosh, here it goes. The game is now tied. We get Bello to strike out swinging, and this is a great job by your pitcher here. He gets ahead in the count and then finishes the guy. Even in this situation here, okay, I just walked the guy. I've got to be around his zone. Not a single ball in his count. Gets ahead 0-2 and then gets a couple fouls and then finishes him swinging. And it was a great effort there. Rambush makes us pay, though, with 2 outs. Singles to right field, a couple runs scored. It's now a 5-3 ball game. And again, I go back. This is, young guys. There's going to be some up and down defensively with young guys. Bello is the last out in the inning if we make that play to first. So the other stuff doesn't happen. We get out of this thing tied. But instead, the inning is extended because of the error. And lo and behold, the leadoff hitter comes through with a big base hit, big 2-out base hit there to make it 5-3. Did a great job of hitting. Then you get Howell to fly out to center field, and you begin to think there's all of these self-inflicted issues in this inning. And yes, you give Auburn credit for the big hit, but we kind of put them in a situation where they had some traffic on the bases they didn't necessarily earn. Bottom of 6, the last thing you need here is a 1-2-3 inning. They have snatched momentum away from us, and to be honest with you, up until this point, we have really kind of controlled this baseball game. And the next thing you know, one bad inning here, we get a walk and a bad error, and next thing you know, we're in trouble. They take full advantage, and we couldn't snatch the momentum back right away. Hines flies out to center, Alford then flies out to right field. And then Clark strikes out swinging, but a good at bat for KC. good at bat here. And you say, well, Steve, how's it a good at bat when he strikes out? I mean, he worked the count and really swung at his pitches, and you give Skipper some credit for getting him. But again, same situation. Lefty on lefty deal there, and that's just going to be about experience. And not just any lefty. Carson Skipper is a really good pitcher. Okay, top 7. We're starting to run out of outs here. And at this point that Auburn's thinking, if we can get anything here, get an insurance run, it makes life a whole lot easier on us. Deshara strikes out swinging, and what a great job from Auger. I mean, really, really barrels down here and gets their best guy to case swinging. And then we get Carlson the ground out to short, and the next thing you know, the trainer's out there on the field attending to Brooks Auger, and it is a scene that has become far too familiar for Mississippi State fans. Nobody's happy to see that under any stretch. It's like you begin to think, okay, we're finally starting to get some guys in the bullpen that can eat up a few innings. We're still not anywhere where we need to be, but all of a sudden, one of the guys has become one of your most reliable relievers is leaving the field prematurely. You bring in Drew Talley, and really a good job here. I mean, granted, there's nobody on base. We're just trying to get out of the inning. It's a 5-pitch at bat, and a little hop, skip, and a jump there from Drew Talley as he gets more to strike out swinging. Felt that was a big moment in the ball game, and rather than us pout and feel sorry for ourselves, I really think Drew kind of gave us a little bit of an emotional lift. We come back out in the 7th, and Brad's a guy too. I mentioned he's been scuffling. He hit the ball well earlier in this ball game, and Skipper basically lets a fastball get belt high, and Brad Cumbus absolutely crushed this baseball. I mean, absolutely crushes this baseball. And at that point, I start thinking, we're going to win this game. We're going to win this game because now the momentum is all back on the Mississippi State side. Just that one swing, the crowd's back into the ball game because we're all kind of, you're kind of shocked at that point with what's going on with Brooks Auger, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what does this mean for the rest of our season? Well, Brad Cumbus is like, you know what, we'll worry about that tomorrow. I got to go ahead and get a run for you. Then Lane Forsythe strikes out swinging, and again, this is a great at bat, and it turned out to be a huge strikeout for Auburn. We worked the count full here, and really a nice job from Lane kind of extending the at-bat here. And I thought we had Carson shook up a little bit. He does battle back to get the K. And then the very first pitch that R.J. Yeager hits is almost the same level of home run that Cumbus hits. And now the game is tied. And how clutch is R.J. Yeager and him being in the leadoff spot? Think about where he is. This guy's got 10 bombs now, and he's hit 3 basically in 8 days. The guy is absolutely rolling right now and becoming the player that we expect him to be when we signed him as a transfer. Camden strikes out swinging and got him on the breaking ball late, and it's so difficult to pick up. It is, and sometimes their guys are just really good. A lot of people say, well, I don't understand what we're swinging at. Well, you've never went up there and stared down, 90-mile-an-hour fastball and then seen a guy throw a breaking ball with a bunch of bite out of the same arm slot with the same arm speed. Sometimes they just get you. Then Hancock grounds out to third. But we have at least tied the game here in the 7th. You think, okay, we're good. We're good. All right, Pico Cone comes in the 8th. We get Pierce to fly out, really a short pop-up out there to short right field. And then Foster gets his revenge. Lengthy at bat here. Pico struggled to finish him, and he homers to left field. An absolute tank makes it 6-5 Auburn. Now we're not quite so optimistic, are we? LaRue pops up to first base. Luke has it. They pinch hit with Farquhar, who grounds out to short to end the inning. But the damage is done. We have scratched and clawed and found our way back here to tie the game. And then with one swing of the bat, we're down a run again. Bottom 8, State has a chance to answer it. We really kind of go quietly here in the 8th. And this is a segment of the order we need to find some production. Logan Tanner grounds out to third. Again, a pretty decent at bat. LT didn't have a whole lot to show for the day except for that RBI single early going. But I never at any point thought that LT was overmatched or anything like that. Just sometimes just couldn't get the bat head out on the ball and make a solid contact. But he grounds out to third here. Hines strikes out swinging, and I really thought there was that Buckhalter got the benefit of a bad call. Buckhalter's in the game for Skipper now, trying to close this thing out. I thought Buckhalter on the 1-1 pitch, that ball was clearly away. They call it a strike, and we foul one off and strike out swinging. And Hunter takes that stuff real seriously. That kid cares. And I've told you guys on Wednesday, These guys are the future of this program, and I like what I see from a mental toughness standpoint from some of these younger guys. We pinch hit for Slade Alford to set up the righty-lefty matchup, and you bring in Siebert, and we get a strikeout swinging here. I thought it was a decent at-bat. I thought once we got ahead there, he did a good job mixing pitches, and you got an inexperienced guy up there. We struggled to put the bat on the ball. But I still think Von Siebert's going to be a great player for us. All right, we go to the ninth. We make a defensive alignment change here. Cam James is starting in center field for the second consecutive game. He goes to third, and Skinner comes in Siebert's spot and takes over in center. Parker Stinnett comes out there, and I know everybody's kind of holding their breath. But Parker did a great job. He really did. Had a good outing on Tuesday and had a good outing today. Gives up a single to the shortstop on a pretty lengthy at bat here. But rather than fold, Parker did a great job. We get a pop up to third. We get we throw the guy out at second too. It's one of those things too. Rambush takes off. The throw is actually to the left of the second base bag, and what a great tag by RJ. He grabs the ball short of the bag, and then as he's kind of stumbling, he gets a tag down, and the guy was out by about 10 feet. I mean, if it's a perfect throw, it's one of those things that you'll put on the highlight reel at the end of the year, and everybody's like, man, what in the world was he thinking? Then Teixeira, that's a big thing too, and it's kind of silly too in hindsight. You've got the one-run lead here. You're trying to get some insurance, and your best hitter is at the plate, and you send the runner, and now all of a sudden there's 2 outs. Teixeira then does come through and singles to right field, and then Carlson walks, but we get more to pop up behind the plate there, and LT, a great job there. I thought that ball was going to go off the screen. He didn't give up on it, and lo and behold, he makes it. I mean, just short of the screen there. But, again, Stinnett, a little bit up and down in the inning, a little bit up and down here. I mean, you give up three base runners in the inning, and you kind of live to tell about it. So bottom of 9, this is where the excitement really takes place here for Mississippi State. A pretty exciting time here. Kellum Clark works the count and gets a leadoff walk. And at that point, you start thinking, you know what? We got a real shot here. We're only down 1. What if Cumbus can get a hold of another one? Well, he doesn't. He actually hits a tailor-made ground ball to second base, and they boot it. You remember that inning earlier where we give up a walk and then we make an error? Well, here's the baseball gods paying us back. Now all of a sudden there's runners at first and second, so at this point there is no doubt you're going to bunt. You bring in Tanner Leggett as a pinch hitter, the best bunter on the team. The first bunt attempt fouled straight back, but then he takes the ball up and then does a great job getting the bunt down. It was a really good bunt. He actually made it really interesting at first. But now all of a sudden you've got the tying and the winning run in scoring position with less than 2 outs. Well, it makes perfect sense. I mean, Butch Thompson's no idiot. We're going to walk Yeager here to load the bases and set up a force at any base. Well, they do. And in the middle of all of that, so there is a wild pitch, and Kellum Clark, and again, Kellum's not the fastest kid, but he gets down the line, a head-first slide just ahead of the tag. And they got a pretty good carom off the wall there. It's just one of those things, too. It's like when you see it come back and think, oh, my gosh, here we go. But what a great job by Kellum. Number 1, to read it, but 2, make a very, very good slide and get in there. The game at this point is tied. And you think, you know what? Now we got runners at second and third with less than 2 outs. All we got to do is put a ball in play somewhere. Got a really good chance here to win this ball game, walk this thing off. Well, of course, they walk Cam James because they have a base open and set up the force again. And then if you're Auburn, you got the worst guy in the world up there. I mean, the absolute worst guy in the world to face in that situation is Luke Hancock. You remember last year, State basically beat Kentucky with Luke Hancock getting the RBI sac fly last year. Over and over and over. He's a team-first guy. And he is a trained assassin at the plate. Doesn't strike out much, so you feel like he's going to put the ball in play. More times than not in a situation like this, he's going to find a way to elevate that ball, make it a routine tag from third. And so we get ahead in the count 2-0, and now you got to come through him, and he throws the fastball by him. And it was kind of a longer swing. I thought Luke actually got his hands out away from his body a little bit. It wasn't the contact swing we're normally used to seeing. Well, then you get a ball and it's 3-1, so you know you're going to get a fastball. And again, he throws a fastball by him again. At this point, I'm starting to get a little concerned. Is Luke just not seeing this thing because neither of those swings were really close? Well, they come back again. Now it's a full count. You don't have anywhere to put him, so you got to give in and give him a fastball. And this time, Luke is on it. So now we foul that pitch back. Well, okay, we got on a payoff pitch coming. He brings the fastball again, and again, now Luke is on it. We're fouling this thing back, and you begin to think, man, here we go. Here we go. So I don't know if he just realized he couldn't finish him with the fastball. I'm just not exactly sure, what his thought process was, but this is their closer, one of the best closers in college baseball. And, the pitch.
Hey, Boneyard fam, do you like podcasts? Well, certainly you do because you're listening to one. I like podcasts too. When I'm out on the road chasing the Bulldogs all over the country, a lot of times I listen to some 80s metal. But after I've reached the end of that playlist, I like to put on some relevant podcast. That happens regularly with me, and I reach out to my friend Jordan Harbinger. You guys may be familiar with Jordan. If you're not, allow me to introduce you to the Jordan Harbinger podcast. Here's the deal. A lot of different topics are discussed on his show. It's very relevant, and I think you'll find it very interesting. One of my favorites is the Joe Barone two-part special about his life basically as an informant against the mob. He's kind of caught between the feds and the mob, really a man with no country out there. It's riveting stuff. You can also find out, is a bridesmaid fight worth a disinvite? Well, I would say probably so. A lot of things in there, and it's always something really cool, whether it's Jordan bringing on a great guest or offering some valuable insight to listeners. It's worth your time and trouble. So here's the deal. Go to wherever you get podcasts and search for the Jordan Harbinger Show. It's very, very easy to find. Jordan and then Harbinger, Harbinger Show. And you'll want to get caught up. And that's the thing, too, is you can go back, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes for whatever's going on in your life or whatever tickles your fancy. And here's the deal. Jordan supports me, so I support him. So by him supporting me and me supporting him, it allows us both to bring you guys some great content. So go check it out today, the Jordan Harbinger Show. You'll be glad you did. I'm telling you, the Joe Barone one, in and of itself, if you want a good introductory episode to get to know Jordan and his ability to be just an incredible interviewer, that's the one you go to. The Jordan Harbinger Show. Find it where you find great podcasts. Go download and subscribe today. As I travel around the Southeast chasing the Bulldogs around, I see it everywhere. Everybody's hiring. America's workforce not back at its full capacity just yet. A lot of businesses out there struggling to find quality employees. Maybe you're one of them. Let me offer some suggestions. Go visit my friends at Indeed. They've got it figured out for you. They can help you. It's a great partnership. You know how it is. If the Bulldogs don't have the right players with the right skills, chances of winning pretty slim. It's the same for you and your business. Maybe you'd like to be able to do more, but you can't. You got staffing concerns that are holding you back. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applicants that meet your must-have job requirements, or else you don't pay. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates that may work out, get some ones that you know will with the right skills. That you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you get that done. Indeed partners with you on every step of the hiring process. Find great talent through time-saving tools like the Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. With Instant Match, as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates with resumes on Indeed that match your job description, and you can invite them to apply for your position right away. Plus, you only pay for the quality applications that meet your must-have requirements. Here's the deal, too. We're going to save you a little money, too. If you're a business out there that's trying to make some things happen, and you say, you know what, Steve, I've never used a company like this, allow me to give you some incentive. How about $75 credit with Indeed? Start hiring right now with that $75 credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Boneyard. That offer is only good through the end of the month. It expires April 30th. That's Indeed.com/Boneyard to claim your $75 credit before April 30th. Terms and conditions may apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed. There's no doubt about it.
Just kind of fades away. It's shortened down, and they walk into winning run, and we'll take it. We'll absolutely take it. And so State wins the game 7-6. So let's award our Prime Shrimp player of the game. could go to a number of players, right? I mean, you look at this and you say, well, Steve, who's your guy? There's a lot to talk about here. And I'm going to go with Brandon Smith. I thought Brandon Smith did a very good job for Mississippi State. He goes 5 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs. Both of them earned 1 walk, no Ks. But listen to this, guys. 13 groundouts. Just the 1 fly out to Sonny DeShara there. 89 pitches, and again, going on short rest, and just did a tremendous job competing and giving Mississippi State a chance to win this ball game. Even though he didn't factor in the decision, Mississippi State has the lead, when he leaves, and pitched around some trouble there in the 5th. But a nice effort for Brandon Smith. And let's remind you, too, if you're looking for great quality shrimp, Prime Shrimp is your supplier for that. Delivered directly to your door. Go to primeshrimp.com, and you can order one of 4 flavors. Really partial to the French Quarter Alfredo, though I do like the Louisiana Shrimp Bowl flavor. It just kind of depends on what I'm in the mood for. I've got several of those pouches in there. And the best thing about that is, too, there's no messy prep or cleanup. Very, very simple process. You could boil your pot of water, and about 10 minutes in, you open that pouch and just dump the shrimp in. The next thing you know, 10 minutes later, you're ready to roll. So whether you're having a shrimp salad or maybe you're doing perhaps some shrimp Alfredo, that's the way to go. That's the way to go. And there's always a money-back guarantee and orders over 4 pounds ship free. So the more you get, the more you save. And speaking of saving, use your promo code Boneyard to save a few bucks on that purchase too. Because you're one of my listeners, they're going to pass along some savings to you. That's primeshrimp.com, a New Orleans-based shrimping company since the 1940s. They know everything there is to know about peeling shrimp, and so you don't have to. They take care of that for you, and so you get them already peeled and deveined. So they're basically ready to cook as soon as they arrive at your home. Again, that's primeshrimp.com. So, again, thanks, Brandon, for his contributions. And Mississippi State will get ready to go tomorrow. Of course, Brandon Smith going on short rest. Preston Johnson will pitch Friday. And so you've got, he's going to be on his regular schedule. And saw him after the game. He's all smiles, ready to go. And the way that he has pitched, he pitched against LSU was outstanding. You get that kind of effort tomorrow, you're going to win the series. If he can replicate what he did last week, you're going to feel really good about life because I think Mississippi State's going to get back to where we need to be. All right, time for today's Top 10 list, brought to you by closewithblair.com. You know Blair. He's a name you know. He's a name in the industry. That's the mortgage industry. There are a lot of people out there that are envious of the fact that Blair Chandler has been around for 21 years. The mortgage industry is not for everybody because there's a lot of disappointment in the mortgage industry. Sometimes an appraisal comes in low. Maybe the underwriters gives you some stipulations perhaps your borrower can't meet. It's part of the deal. It's good to have somebody that knows the pitfalls of the mortgage industry kind of navigating through this thing with you. That's who Blair is. That's what Blair does. Visit him today at closewithblair.com. That's CLOSE with Blair.com. And so let's take a quick look at that. Go over there and check him out. And the website itself, very, very self-explanatory. One of the things that Blair has told me too, shared this with me earlier today. What we're finding out is that most Americans are still carrying about 35% more on their credit cards than they did pre-pandemic. People just simply had to use those resources and those funds and to kind of float things along. Maybe you just got too busy with online shopping, or maybe you had to buy groceries, or maybe you had to pay bills with your credit cards. And now all of a sudden you're kind of overextended. Maybe it's time to consolidate that debt and get down to a manageable payment. Just one monthly payment. He can help you with that. Or maybe you need to cash out some money. But don't continue to live paycheck to paycheck when you have some equity to work with. You only live once. There's no point living stressed out. Give Blair Chandler a chance to give you an opportunity to take care of that. Here is Blair's personal cell number, 601-500-2344. Again, 601-500-2344. Mention to him you heard about him on the Boneyard, and he is going to pay for your appraisal, and that's about a $500 value. All right, today's Top 10 list. We're back ranking albums. And to be honest with you, I didn't have time to look through the list, and I thought about, hey, who's a very popular 80s rock band that you all love, that's legendary, that we can rank some albums. And so Bon Jovi's had 15 studio albums. So they fit the criteria. You guys love Bon Jovi. I love Bon Jovi. I remember back February 13th, 1987, we all gathered in the Mississippi Gulf Coast Arena to watch Bon Jovi and Cinderella. It was the Slippery When Wet tour. It was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Concert sold out in minutes, and we were fortunate enough to get tickets. Speaking of which, I got to order some concert tickets today. Not for Bon Jovi, though. But here is the top 10 Bon Jovi albums as I see them, and then my favorite song off each of these albums. That does not necessarily mean it's the biggest hit off that album. It's just a song that I think is the defining single of the album. Number 10, from the album The Circle, We Weren't Born to Follow. Kind of a song of empowerment. There are a lot of people, of course, that that doesn't apply to, but I think is very, very catchy tune. It's very up-tempo. Now, let's be honest, as John Bon Jovi has aged and Richie Sambora has left the band, I don't know that the band has the same edge. You know, maybe it's a combination of both of those things, Richie moving on and John kind of mellowing out a little bit. I don't know. But, you know, some of the stuff in the later catalog is very good, and some of it just kind of seems okay. You know, this album has some high points, but it is one of those that's just kind of okay. Number 9, an album that's got a lot of diversity on it. What I mean by that is, you know, there's a lot of songs on here. Some are a little more rockin', some are a little more adult contemporary. There's some good ballads on here. And the Lost Highway album, the title track is outstanding. But the biggest hit on that album is the one that I like a lot too. It's Do You Want to Make a Memory? And again, it's a great Bon Jovi ballad. John's really good at that sort of stuff. Pretty exciting song in many respects. Kind of a relationship track, you know, but I think you'll dig it. Number 8, the title track from Have a Nice Day is Have a Nice Day. I think that song is great. I love the fact that they brought back some guitar that is reminiscent of the early part of their career. Did a great job with that. You know, Richie did a good job on it. This was a great video too. A lot of people are familiar with the song, but Have a Nice Day, it's a cool one. Number 7, and this was kind of a renaissance in many respects for Bon Jovi, that when they were still playing music videos on television, different channels back then. MTV hadn't played music in years. But the album Crush, which I thought was kind of a shining moment for them, kind of in the post-'80s world. But the song It's My Life, and that's a killer video too. It's an outstanding track. I hope that you dig it. From the Crush album, number 7, It's My Life. Number 6, an album that I kind of discovered after the fact. I kind of got on a Bon Jovi kick for a while, and so I would once a month I would order a new Bon Jovi album, maybe one that I wasn't familiar with, and then I would dig it for a while, then I'd buy the next one. And I remember reading some reviews about the album These Days, and the reviews weren't especially kind. And a lot of that, too, is because music was changing, and I think some people didn't necessarily give honest opinions of things. They said, hey, well, these old dinosaurs from the 80s, they're done. Well, the These Days album is incredible. It is probably one of the best albums in the catalog after the 1980s. It's an outstanding song. This album, excuse me. Now, I could have gone with one of my favorites in the catalog is Something for the Pain. I love that song, but my favorite song on the These Days album is another ballad, and it is nearly a perfect song. It's This Ain't a Love Song. You know, if I'm wrong, this ain't a love song. You'll know it when you hear it. But I love the harmony on this, and that's one of the things that I think John misses the most about Richie, is Richie did a great job singing the harmony. And I think that those choruses, those big Bon Jovi choruses, are lacking without Richie Sambora. Not that they asked me. Number 5, the Keep the Faith album. This is kind of a hidden gem, too. Even though it did really well at times, I don't know that people really look at this one and say, hey, this is a great album. I think it is a great album, and I don't know that there's a lot of skips on this album. I Believe it's a great track. Keep the Faith, the title track is great. I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, it's fun. Bed of Roses was a huge hit for them, And then Dry County is one that I don't know that gets enough respect either. But my favorite song on this album is In These Arms. I like the up-tempo part of it. I think John's vocal delivery is very, very good. But Keep the Faith, In These Arms, your number 5 song for the day. Number 5 album and number 5 song. All right, so now we're down to really the first 4 albums. And I think a lot of people probably would agree these are the best 4 albums. The number 4 one for me is the self-titled debut, the Bon Jovi album. I think parts of that are really kind of sophomoric and basic. I don't think they had found their sound yet. Of course, Runaway with David Bryan out there just banging out the keys. That's your song off the Bon Jovi album. And I know She Don't Know Me is one. It was kind of a carryover that made the album. But and Shot Through the Heart was on there. But Runaway is the signature track on the Bon Jovi album. All right, number 3. This is the one that really got me into Bon Jovi. Like, I was familiar with Runaway, and I bought this album and eventually went back and bought the self-titled album. But it is the 7800 Degrees Fahrenheit album, and on this tour, they opened for Rat. Rat was out on the Invasion of Your Privacy tour, and at that point, Rat was kind of the biggest band in the world. You know, Motley was in between album cycles and kind of figuring it out with Vince, and so Rat was like the tour that year. They take John Bon Jovi and the guys out from New Jersey, and all of a sudden, Bon Jovi went from, hey, that's the band with the keyboards, to, oh, that's Bon Jovi. Those guys are really good. I could go a lot of different directions here on this album. I think, again, this is a very solid album. I don't think it's a legendary album. I do think that it is one that has a lot of killer tracks and not just, filler on there. But I'm going with In and Out of Love. I love Tico Torres' work on this one, on the drums there. The number 2 album, in my mind, is the New Jersey album. Now, the New Jersey album is another one of these that I don't know that people fully appreciated how big this album was. I remember when Bon Jovi had kind of risen to prominence, and everybody said, well, they'll kind of fade here. Well, they didn't, and they brought this great album, this New Jersey album out. And again, I don't know there's a bad track on it. Now, let's run through a couple of these real quick here. But, I mean, this was one of those eagerly anticipated albums, and people were like, there's no way that they'll ever, kind of keep this thing up. And then they released Bad Medicine as a single and let the fans shoot the video. And my goodness, man, it was so good. Sam Kinison, of course, was part of that in the beginning. But Bad Medicine was fabulous. That single was released on September 3rd and had 5 top 10 hits on this album. Living in Sin was a very controversial song at the time, because back in the late 80s, there was still a lot of the moral majority that you just didn't talk about living together without being married. Lay Your Hands on Me, an iconic song in many respects, and again, Dave Bryan, just a great job there. I'll Be There for You, These 5 Words I Swear to You, When You Bleed, I Want to Be the Cutting You. How about that? It's the bottom line is this is another one of those great tracks, and this was a huge, huge album when it came to record sales. And, when you begin to think about, okay, well, what's next for Bon Jovi and how they continue to capitalize, and they just kept turning out hit after hit after hit. And this thing, in the United States alone, sold over 7 million copies. That's fabulous. Fabulous. My favorite song, it's not Bad Medicine. Even though I dig it, it's Born to Be My Baby. That's my first. I love that track. I think it's one of those ones that kind of holds up even at this late date. You go back and look at it and say, you know what? That's a really good song. But number 1 for me, and it's the iconic Bon Jovi album, it is Slippery When Wet. And this is when Bon Jovi had really kind of transitioned from being an opening act on a major tour to being a headliner. This is one of those albums that if you were living in the 80s, you knew most of these songs. It was released in 1986, and even to this day, there are multiple tracks from this album that get played. And one of the things, too, there was the original cover, and the record company wouldn't allow it to be released, is let's just say there is a well-endowed woman on the cover that's wearing a Slippery When Wet shirt that is wet and has some holes in it, and it was rejected, and they only used it in Japan because I guess the Japanese just weren't as depraved as we were. But are so uptight. We're a bunch of prudes back in the late 80s, kind of battling against rock. And so they came out with this, this condensation thing with some writing on it. It's still a great album. I think it'd have been a great album no matter what the cover was. But so many good songs on this album. Wanted Dead or Alive is one of those ones that everybody knows. It is an iconic song, and even though you're from New Jersey, John, We'll Let You Be a Cowboy. Let It Rock is one. That was the lead track on this album, and we all had it on cassette, right? So it was the first song on the first side. It's phenomenal. Living on a Prayer, an incredible video. Love is a Social Disease, kind of a controversial song a little bit too, the way that thing opened. And then Wanted Dead or Alive, another classic song. Raise Your Hands was great. Without Love was great. I'd Die for You, another one. Never Say Goodbye was a huge hit. And then Wild in the Streets was probably, even though it was the final song on the album, I wouldn't call it a throwaway. But my favorite song on this album is your favorite song on this album, and that's Shot Through the Heart and You're to Blame. You Give Love a Bad Name. What a great way to end the list, man. But Bon Jovi, a great band, and again, they have really turned more adult contemporary, because they're very adult now. We got to know these guys, in their years of debauchery, and of course, John Bon Jovi had the best hair in rock music back then. But just so much with this band. I mean, you begin to think about the fact that, these guys have been doing it, man, forever and a day. The self-titled album came out in 1984. You can do the math on that. Bon Jovi's coming up on 40 years as a band and sold a ton of records. I mean, it is ridiculous to think about how many records and posters and T-shirts these guys sold. I mean, just a huge, huge band. And I think it's important to understand, too, that there have been very few lineup changes in this band. There are a lot of bands from the 80s, and I go see these guys regularly, and sometimes there's like one original member left. There are still 3 original members in this band. Alec John Such was the original bass player, and he was later fired, and Richie Sambora, of course, quit. Dave Sabo from Skid Row is also, he and John Bon Jovi, friends from way back. Dave sat in with the band for a while, too. So that's interesting. Thought you guys would enjoy the list. A good list for a Friday. We need to do some rock on Fridays. So we'll come back on Monday with another great top 10 list. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out to me or Roy. Let us know. I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. Roy is at Dogmatic. That's DAWGMATIC 67. And you can find him on Spotify and look up these great lists as well. If you don't do Spotify, which I'm one of those people, I'm an Apple Music guy. Our friend Izzy Mandelbaum we'll put those on the Apple Music list, and you can find that on Roy's tweet. Like, I retweet it and Roy tweets it, but usually the first response is from Izzy. Sometimes he falls behind, and that's okay. He's doing this for free as a service for all of you guys. But thank those guys for their contributions to the show and to the top 10 list. But if you've got ideas, let us know. We just might use them. All right, time for our look around the Southeastern Conference. This segment of the show brought to you by your friends at Campus Bookmart. I love them. I will be there with them soon, too. And I will be there Saturday morning with them before the spring game. So come by and check us out. I guess that's 9 to 10:30. And depending on the rain, maybe a little bit longer. But 9 to 10:30 this Saturday at Campus Bookmart. Eager to see you all there as well. Now, Campus Bookmart has been around forever and a day. Great people doing a great job at a great price. Be sure and go check them out. They got the latest in Mississippi State merchandise. Stand Man, Miss Kathy Brown, the lovely, talented Susie. Just fantastic people. They will treat you like family because in their minds you are family. You're just friends they haven't met yet. You walk in the door and it's like going to Cheers. It's like, hey, how are you? Good to see you. So go by and check them out. If you can't make it to town, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That'll get you free shipping on all orders over $50. Any order less than $50, absolutely incomplete. All right, let's take a look around the SEC. An interesting night. It always is. It always is the first night of the series. You never know what's going to happen. Big news for Georgia. Jonathan Cannon, their ace and arguably the best starting pitcher in the Southeastern Conference this year, missing his start for the second consecutive week. We have been there before, with JT Gann. JT was an absolute stud for us. And then, and kind of in and out of the lineup. And anytime a guy has to miss a start, it always raises an eyebrow. We've had some guys in the past at other teams that have done that and come back. We hope that's the case for Jonathan Cannon. A very, very talented guy, and arguably the best pitcher I have seen in person this year that doesn't pitch for Mississippi State. Very, very talented guy. They could have used him tonight. A&M with 10 hits in an 8-1 win in Athens, Georgia. Strike it up for the Aggies. They're playing much, much better. We're going to have to go out there and play well. They go take that one from number 13, Georgia. It's going to be a big series win for the Aggies. And Schlossnagel's a guy, too. It's like, hey, you want to talk to me about expectations? That's cool. Let's go get it done. Ole Miss, winners against South Carolina tonight. Not a huge surprise. I think Ole Miss will win this series, and I said that. We just need South Carolina to get one. We'd love for them to get two. But we need them to get one. I look at this A&M and Georgia thing. Let me back up a second. This A&M and Georgia thing, I think A&M has a golden opportunity here. Now, Georgia will likely rebound tomorrow, and then Saturday kind of becomes that rubber game that we'll just kind of figure it out. I still think Georgia at home will find a way to win this series. But if they don't win tomorrow, there's a chance they're possibly getting swept because they're injured a little bit. They're kind of beat up. Ole Miss should take the series to South Carolina. South Carolina is still the only team in the Southeastern Conference with a losing record at 16-17. Ole Miss 9-1 winners. And South Carolina, listen, those guys had 8 hits. They just couldn't bunch anything together. LSU and Arkansas, a wild game out there in Fayetteville. And Arkansas finds a way to get it done. And I don't know who our rooting interest is here. And to be honest with you, we're not going to contend really for the SEC West Championship. So I'm kind of glad to see LSU take the L here. And maybe you disagree. Maybe you do. I think it's going to be fine. But Arkansas gets out to a 2-0 lead. LSU comes back in the 6th to take the 3-2 lead. Arkansas answers back in the bottom of the 7th with 3 of their own. And now all of a sudden you start looking at this. Okay, now it's a 5-3 ball game. LSU gets 1 in the 8th to make it awfully interesting, and then couldn't get it done there in the 9th. But going to be an interesting series for sure up there in Fayetteville. And, of course, Arkansas's looking to bounce back after last weekend. Kentucky absolutely pounds Missouri 15-6. 22 hits for the Wildcats. That's pretty impressive, right? 22? Goodness gracious. Exciting times for those guys, to say the least. And, I still think this Kentucky team will find a way to sneak into the tournament. I wish we played them this year. But they're going to be a team that's going to be interesting down the stretch. We need them to kind of help us out a little bit. And so Alabama and Tennessee, I guess that series is probably, I guess that's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal. But they'll get underway, and then Florida Vanderbilt will get underway too. Can you pull for Alabama here? It's like, honestly, I think it's probably better for us to pull for Tennessee because Alabama is kind of similarly situated with us. We're kind of right there together. And so we really need the chalk to hold in many respects when it comes to teams like Tennessee and Arkansas. We need them to beat up on teams that are going to be around us in the schedule, or in the standings, pardon me. Florida's going to be at Vanderbilt. I'm pulling for Florida. We get a chance to play those guys. We don't get a chance to play Vanderbilt. And I think Vanderbilt is going to be kind of like us. They're going to be kind of battling late to kind of find games to improve their postseason resume. So, a great night of baseball tonight, and it's a full day of baseball on Friday. And I think that's pretty exciting too. I think this is going to be an interesting weekend. But, I think your series winners. I think Georgia will figure it out. I think Tennessee will certainly handle Alabama. But if Alabama could get one, maybe that's interesting. Of course, Tennessee lost earlier this week, Tennessee Tech. I think Arkansas takes a series against LSU. Florida will take a series against Vanderbilt. Ole Miss against South Carolina. Kentucky, I think, takes a series against Missouri. And then Mississippi State, I believe, takes a series against Auburn. So, well, Steve, can we sweep? Yeah, we can. And this is the thing that I would point out, too. As we mentioned at the top of the show, these guys had to use their frontline arms, they invested in getting the game and then didn't get the game. And as, let's just say, a player who will not be named made mention, everybody on that team knows it. If you're Auburn, everybody knows, hey, we went all in to win today, and then we didn't. And you can say, Blake Barcoulter only went 1 1/3 innings. He threw 42 pitches. That's an awful lot for a closer. Probably burns him for the weekend. Maybe he can give you an inning on Sunday. Maybe Skipper can give you an inning on Sunday. He went 46. That's an awful lot. It's an awful lot. And those are high-stress innings, too. It's not like, they went out there and just kind of had a glorified bullpen. But you look at stateside, and you don't know Brooks Auger's availability. I would say no matter the prognosis, he's done for the weekend. Drew Talley, of course, is 5 pitches. Pico Kong went 21. Maybe he can give you an inning or two on Sunday. Parker Stinnett, 27 pitches. And that was a high-stress inning. And we had kind of a mixed result there. He gets a win. He's a pitcher of record in this ballgame. Now 4-1 on the year. But, that's the thing, too. It's like I read and see these things, and it's like, why do we keep sending these guys out here? Guys won't have anybody else. You're going to see Jackson Fristow pitch at some point, too. Clutch your pearls. At some point, and listen, Fristow has had some good moments for us this year. It's just a matter of him kind of breaking through. And maybe I like him better in the 8th than I do in the 9th. I think that the outlook on Friday, though, is you hope that Preston can go out there and get you 6 or 7, and that maybe KC can get you home. I think KC kind of has to be that guy. And listen, I think if you're Mississippi State, you're all in on Saturday, or game 2. I keep getting confused. All week long I've been confused. I don't even know what day it is halftime. But the reality of it is, if you can get a quality start from Preston and not let them run his pitch count up, and let's say he gets you 6. KC we're starting to see him get more elongated starts. Appearances, pardon me. And so I think if you're KC, you got to say, I got to go out here and finish this thing out. I can't give the ball up. I got to go out here and get us one time through the order. And he's been good. And, again, it's just kind of getting him back and getting him healthy. But, he's a guy, too, that missed some time. And so he should be a little bit fresher, I guess, maybe some other guys. But, we're going to need him. We're going to need him. And I think that's probably how you kind of put this thing together. Preston and KC on Saturday, and then it's a Johnny Holstaff thing. And you hope Cade can give you, 6 or so in game 3, and then you can piece it together. You still got Cam Tuller, of course, and Cam is really more of a lefty matchup guy. He's just not been a guy that's been good for more than an inning at a time. And some of that times it gets away from him, But you start thinking then if we can get a lead, and just get down to maybe we need 9 outs. And that's to mention that Auburn's bullpen is going to be in a much different situation. I think, when you begin to break down the bullpen stuff, the fact that they've already thrown their quality arms sets up pretty well for Mississippi State, because we still got some bullets left in the gun there. But, looking at Auburn real quickly here, we touched on some of this stuff earlier, but let's take a quick look back, at this Auburn Tiger baseball schedule and see how they've done in game 2s. It's been a mixed bag. Game 2, they win against Texas Tech. That's the Saturday game out there in the State Farm College Baseball Showdown. They come back, and then the Yale game, of course, they win. It's a doubleheader on Saturday, but they win game 2, 4-3, and then lose 5-4. The next weekend, it's the Rhode Island thing. It's not even worth even talking about. And again, it's a doubleheader deal. Played a 4-game series against those guys. Middle Tennessee, they win that game, and this game got pushed to Sunday. But they win at 10-7. So they've been competitive in these games. Game 2 against Ole Miss, they win 19-5. A&M, they lose 5-4 and 11. Again, a very competitive game. And then they lose 9-2 against LSU. That was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday deal. And then they lose game 2 against Vanderbilt. And so in recent weeks, the game 2s have been a little more difficult for them. So maybe we can make that for them this week. That's the thing, and you begin to think about, we're managing one game at a time. It's not like, okay, let's just win the series and move on. We got to get every one we can get, every single one. Looking at these, Trace Bright started that game against Vanderbilt, and he went 3 1/3 of an inning, 6 hits, 6 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, 69 pitches. Nice. Carson Swilling pitched. He warmed up some today. Chase Isbell pitched. Cade Grasnow pitched. Tommy Sheehan. Something that they pieced this thing together. But this is a game, too, that got away from them. So you're not throwing, big arms once the game, there's been separation in the game because you got to turn around and play the game on Sunday. And it was kind of like that in the Ole Miss game, too. I mean, once the game was kind of out of hand, they really let it get out of hand because they wanted to save some arms and try to win that game on Sunday. And that worked out for them last week. It didn't work out for them against Ole Miss, and it did work out for them against LSU. But it's just, I begin to kind of work through all this, and you begin to think, okay, all right, if Trace Bright is the guy coming out there, the right-hander there, the junior right-hander from Montgomery, Alabama, it hadn't been quite what they wanted as of late. I start looking at these things. He got off to the good start against Kansas State and got a W. Takes a loss against Yale. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but Auburn has lost 5 consecutive starts that Trace Bright has started. 5 consecutive. Dating back to Middle Tennessee. Lose to Middle Tennessee, lose to Ole Miss, lose at A&M, lose at LSU, lose to Vanderbilt. So that gives me some hope for tomorrow because I start thinking here, Preston was really good last week. And if we're going to see Trace Bright, and to be honest with you, I don't know what Auburn's pitching plans are. Let me double check that real quick. And yes, it will be Trace Bright and then Gonzalez in Game 3. And so I began to look at this, and all of a sudden I've become a little more hopeful. You start thinking, okay, hey, this is a guy that has struggled to get people out, and Auburn has scored to score some runs in support, and then we're throwing a guy that has been very competitive for us. Even when he hadn't had his best stuff, he's been kind of battled through this thing. But when I began to think this Trace Bright thing, I mean, he is 2-3 record with a 3.83 ERA. Started 8 games for him. 40 innings pitched, which leads the team. 33 hits, 21 runs, 17 of them earned, 19 walks against 43 Ks. He's allowed 9 doubles and 3 home runs. Opponents hitting 223 against him, 4 wild pitches. But you begin to look at this and you say, hey, how are they piecing this thing together? But here are his last 5 starts, and we mentioned that they have lost all 5 of these, even though he didn't factor in the decision of all of them. Against Middle Tennessee in 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, 4 Ks, 3 walks. Against Ole Miss, he goes 4 1/3, 5 hits, 6 runs, 3 of them earned, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Texas A&M, 5 innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned, 2 walks, 6 Ks. LSU, 4 1/3, 4 hits, 3 runs, all 3 of them earned, 4 walks, 6 Ks. So you see now he's basically walking a lot bit more hitters, so people were kind of figuring some things out, probably laying off the breaking stuff. Against Vanderbilt, he goes 3 1/3, 6 hits, 6 runs, 3 walks, 3 Ks. So he got off to the great start. He had 3 big starts to start the thing, allowed just 6 hits in his first 3 starts, and all of those went 5+ innings, and then allowed just the 1 run. But now everybody's got some tape on him, and things are changing a little bit. So this is a guy that has really struggled as of late to get people out and to keep runs off the board. So we got to go out there and make him pay for that. So, again, I feel good about taking a series, and then we'll see what happens. And we'll talk about this, next week. But, a lot could change for Mississippi State if we can find a way to sweep the series. All right, time for the final segment of the show. That means it's Portico, right? You guys have heard me talk about Portico for a while now. When I tell you that if I was moving to Starkville now, I would move to Portico, it is not just an advertisement. I like to say the fancy word there, right? It is a great place, man. I would love to be that close to campus. 1.1 miles away from the Mississippi State campus. From all things, Maroon, you deserve to be near the action. I would love for you to be my neighbor. Even though I live out here in the sticks, you could live right there close to campus. Conveniently located right there off of Highway 12 on the best side of 12, which is the close side to 82, so you can kind of get out and get on the road. You turn off of 82 onto 12. The very first right is Pat Station Road. That'll take you to Portico. Very, very, very easy to get to. On the quiet side of campus, So you're close enough for convenience, but far enough away to have a little privacy. Your new neighbors are already entrenched there. Phase 1 completely sold out. Phase 2 now under development. You can have a say in how it all goes. You can pick out your lot and have a say in your house plans. You can start with a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and go all the way up to a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. If you've got a growing family, maybe that's the way to go. I would encourage you to check them out. Our friend Brooks Bryant, my friend, your friend, a maroon and white celebrity, and some people dare say call him the legend. And he made that big catch against Washington to rob a home run to send us to Omaha. So that in and of itself is worthy of your respect. Give Brooks a call today for more information, 601-416-8075. Again, that's 601-416-8075. Make Portico your next move. Okay, so Thursday, before I went over to baseball, I spent some time at football. I like to get out there when I can. I commend Paul Jones for being out there every day for us and doing up-to-date depth charts over on the genespage.com website. You can go check it out. Even if you're not a subscriber, you can read that. Now, it's, again, kind of for entertainment purposes because we have some guys that are out for spring practice. But you get a pretty good idea of how things are going. Now, let me share with you some observations that I saw on Thursday. Now, the first thing that I will say is when we signed Caleb Ducking, I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work. From Rolling Fork, Mississippi, South Delta High School, was a non-qualifier, and ended up at Holmes Community College in a run-first offense. And so they did not run an offensive scheme that really lended itself to his skill set. But he learned how to play in a run-first scheme. It worked out well enough. He comes to camp at Mississippi State, earns a scholarship, and now he's here. You know, he redshirted the first year, and last year down the stretch, he made some good plays for us. Guys, he really looks good. You know, he's got that ridiculous catch radius. He's made some one-handed grabs on the sidelines, and very, very competitive player. I look for him to make a much bigger contribution this year. Is he going to be the lead dog? No, he's not. But he gives you a real big, healthy ex-receiver out there that can make some plays outside the numbers. Antonio Harmon, not a burner. We knew that coming in. But the guy is very physical. Difficult to guard, gets in out of his breaks pretty well, great hands. I think he is the guy, too, that benefited from the redshirt year. He looks really strong. When we take the field, you're going to be impressed. Those of you coming to the scrimmage game on Saturday, I think you're going to be impressed with these wide receivers. Austin Williams, nothing's changed with him. Same guy. Maybe a little bit bigger, faster, stronger. But you know what you're going to get in Austin Williams. Very reliable target for us. Jaden Walley has been explosive in practice. Talked to a couple coaches today, and they said, hey, he's had his best camp. And that's what needs to happen. You know, this is a guy, too, that kind of hurt us with drops a little bit last year, but he is a guy, too, that once he gets the ball, because he is so fleet of foot, he can get right by you. Tulu's done some big things. You expect that. Rufus Harvey having his best camp. And Rufus, a guy, too, again, not a burner, has a much bigger catch radius than you'd expect for a guy his size. Again, made some big plays today. One of the guys that I think has really made a jump, and Coach Mike Leach kind of confirmed it in our post-practice comments, is Jameer Calvin. I think we're seeing the best of Jameer Calvin right now. So I feel really good about these receivers. And you've got some more guys coming along, and there's still this whole thing with Teddy Knox. I mean, I don't expect him back, but I think that he has made a mistake, and I think that it is pretty apparent at this point that he's not going to end up at LSU. I think that is probably apparent. Maybe he ends up at UL Lafayette, maybe Tulane. We'll see how things progress. But I think that he is a guy that at this point could probably go mend the fence and go back, but I don't know that for certain. I really don't. I don't expect that to happen. The running backs look great. We still get a lot of comments about, Bull Hargrove, a guy that, he looks like an SEC player. There are a lot of guys out there sometimes you think, hey, what's he play? No, this guy, he jumps out. And our backs look really good. Very physical, running well after the catch. Be eager to see how Simeon Price looks when fall camp begins. But running back position pretty well stocked. Offensive line, interior line looks good. It does. Dollar Bill out there today. Cam Jones out there kind of laying some haymakers out there today. Very physical player. And I'll be honest with you, Cam Jones has exceeded my expectations. When we signed him, I thought, well, he's probably just going to be another guy, arguably the most versatile guy in our offensive line room. You know what you're getting with LaQuinton Sharp. Cole Smith's a guy, too, that's somewhat limited in spring practice. But you know what you get there, too. But Stephen Lasoy is a guy, very versatile guy, can play up and down the line, likely a guard for us. And Albert Reese, a guy that really wants to get better at football, a guy that really works hard, too. You can see him out there. And he has a tendency at times to play high. He needs to dip his hips a little bit more and kind of engage and not get walked back to the quarterback. That happens sometimes. But I think we're going to see a real upgrade at right tackle. Percy's coming along, too. We could use another tackle, though, and I think that's a focus as we get into the portal. Now, on the defensive side of the football, I think our defensive line group's going to be really good. I mean, really, really good, especially when we get everybody back. I mean, Pickering was out there running around today. He had a full contact jersey on. They're still being careful with Jaden Crumity, and Cam Young is a guy, too, that not getting much in the way of reps, but a guy that really has nothing left to prove. You know what you're going to get in Cam Young. Jordan Davis still out there running around in a yellow no-contact jersey, but in drills, he looks to be running and performing at a pretty high level. I think we're going to get the best version of Jordan Davis once this team takes the field. So I think our front is going to be deeper and much improved over last year. And there were times last year they were outstanding. We just struggled at times to generate a pass rush without bringing a blitz. And I think Jordan Davis helps with that. Tyrus Wheat is an absolute freak. And a guy that we struggled to block last year in practice, that's kind of the case now too. And he's only going to make a guy like Albert Reese better. So, again, I feel really good about that group. Now, I am concerned at linebacker. I love our first-teamers. I do think losing Aaron Brule really hurts our depth. And Aaron's a guy, too, that missed a ton of tackles last year. He just did. That's just the reality of life. He missed a ton of tackles. But he is a guy that could be a two-deeper this year, too. And I think when he struggled last year, Jet Johnson stepped up and Jet broke his hand earlier in practice this week, or 2 weeks ago. So he is somewhat limited, but he will be full go come camp. He's still doing some things. He's not out there just kind of wandering around. But I think that frontline group is going to be really good. I don't know that it wouldn't behoove us to not go get a linebacker in the portal, even if they're a two-deeper. Because I think, there is a big gap between the first-teamer and the second-teamers. Tamar Rogers, still really undersized. I mean, he's a guy that plays with a lot of energy. He's a guy that has some athleticism. But he's not. He doesn't really impress you physically. Again, he's still young, still developing. Nick Mitchell was a guy that looks pretty good on the hoof, but he hadn't really flashed so far in the practices that I've attended. And so I think this young class that we're bringing in, with Javay Gilmore and Khalid Moore and Avery Sledge, I think those guys will likely catch and surpass some of the guys on this depth chart within the next year or two. I like the guys we have recruited this class better than the ones we did the year before. And that's just kind of being honest with you. And so I think, if you have to rely on a young linebacker this year, that's probably not a great thing. So we've got to stay healthy at linebacker. I think that is a group right now that is a little bit questionable. You simply can't afford to take an injury there. Corners, I think the Cambrion Richardson looks outstanding. And talking to one of our coaches today, they say the light has really come on for him. He has always had the athleticism, but of course was learning a new position. And to be honest with you, he might be more athletic than Martin Emerson. I think his foot speed's a little bit better. And the quality of snaps we got from Martin Emerson. So I think your frontline corners, with Emmanuel Forbes and DeCam are outstanding. Marcus Banks, a little bit banged up, but he did some good things early in camp. I think you're going to be pretty solid there. And DeCarlos Nicholson, another guy that's not scared to mix it up out there. So I think corners, even though with the loss of Martin Emerson, I think this corner group's going to be really good. Jay Banks, a guy still kind of figuring some things out, but has really good athleticism. We have moved William Hardrick from corner to receiver. And I don't think that necessarily means a lot about receiver or about William Hardrick. I think it kind of speaks to the depth we have at the position. The safeties have actually been pretty good in practice, and I still think we need to take another one in the portal. Sean Preston, running around doing a good job out there. And you listen, Sean's a guy that's been a reliable player for us at times, really good in run support and needs to be a little better in pass coverage, but has shown some flashes out there and made some plays. And I think he's going to be a very outstanding player for us. And Jalen Green's another guy that you look out there and you can see him and say this is a former 5-star guy. But, again, the depth behind them. You don't want to have to go out there. Jackie Matthews is a guy, obviously, that can play for us too, but probably need to get another one. And so if there are 3 spots, I think, left to work with, provided Dakota comes to school, and that is kind of trending more in the right direction. I think you look at that and say, okay, if I had my druthers, I would get an offensive tackle, a linebacker, and a safety. To me, that makes the most sense. I think you're going to be pretty solid everywhere else. And the thing about it is, too, and there's so many people I don't think that fully appreciate this, you're not going to get much value out of your third-team quarterback or even your third-team receivers, and in many cases your third-team running backs. But you get a ton of snaps out of your third-team backers and your third-team safeties and DBs because they're going to play a ton of special teams for you. So you need some athleticism there. And so I think it kind of behooves Mississippi State to go out and get a reserve linebacker and a safety, even if for no other reason but to provide some depth and to work on special teams. But I feel good about the group. I think Will Rogers has looked really good in practice. As one coach told me today, Steve, he gets it. He gets it. He understands it, making decisions better. And I asked Mike Leach to kind of confirm that. And he did say he thinks Will has taken a jump this year. Will Rogers is a guy, too, considering the numbers he has put up, they're kind of unfairly maligned at times by Mississippi State fans. But based on what I have seen, I do think he has taken a step forward. And more importantly, Mike Leach seems to think that too. So I think that bodes well for the season. And for those of us that can make it out there Saturday, I think it'll be a lot of fun. The game will be available to be streamed on the ESPN app. I don't know if it's televised live, but we're going to practice. I don't know what that means for you guys, supposed to rain some on Saturday. But and speaking of that, good chance that we play Saturday baseball in the evening, which kind of throws a wrench in some plans that I had because I had planned to head down to Brandon to go watch Megadeth and those guys play at the Brandon Amphitheater. So may not be able to make the show, but we'll be here to cover baseball. Look forward to doing that. That's going to do it for today. I'll be back with you guys on Monday. And I want to remind you guys, too, if you're looking for Stark Billings gear, you can find it at starkbillings.com. You'll be glad you did. It's high-quality merchandise at a great price there. And kind of identify yourself. As somebody, of course, that you come to Starkville, we may be hospitable, but when we get between the lines, we don't mind wearing the black hat. We're going to do whatever it takes to win. That's going to do it for today, man. You guys have a great weekend. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.
Underdog Fantasy is the fastest-growing fantasy app and easiest place to play fantasy sports. Just jump on UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app, draft your team, and that's it. And if drafts aren't your thing, they also have a pick'em game where you can win 20 times your money in a single night. Use promo code RADIO, and Underdog will double your first deposit when you sign up with up to $100 in bonus cash. Deposit $100, get $100 free. That's promo code RADIO. Terms and conditions apply.